You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. The Options Insider Radio Network is sponsored by Fidelity Investments. Fidelity's Option Trade Builder tool can help you confidently build an options trade in 3 simple steps. Just choose a strategy, select a contract, and then review the benefits and risks of the trade. Learn more about Option Trade Builder at fidelity.com/options. Options trading entails significant risk and is not appropriate for all investors. Certain complex option strategies carry additional risk. Before trading options, contact Fidelity Investments by calling 800-544-5115 to receive a copy of the characteristics and risks of standardized options. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
Join us now for the expert source for inside information on the options markets. It's time for Options Insider Radio with your host, Mark Longo.
All right, everybody. That music means we're back. Once again, we know you guys missed us. You had a little bit of a hiatus from live stuff hitting the network over the past week. Hey, it was the last week of summer. Got to go take a vacation sometimes. Probably the longest I've been away from a microphone in some time. So that was kind of refreshing. It was good. We know we still had some content hitting the network, so you guys were not left in a lurch by any means. You had a lot of stuff coming your way. So thankfully, but now we're back here, back after the Labor Day holiday, and ready to get back at it. Of course, joining me to help me do just that on our radio interview program is a newcomer to the program and indeed to the network. He is Scott Nelson, the CEO over there at Sweetbridge. Scott, welcome to the Options Insider Radio interview program.
Thank you so much.
Scott, as we are wont to do with all of our first-timers here on the old network, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of an overview of your background and what it is that you guys actually do over there at Sweetbridge.
Great. Well, I have a unique background in that I've done 3 things in my whole career together that rarely are done together, and that's work in supply chains, technology, and finance all at the same time. And when you kind of see the world from the union of those 3 things, you kind of get to see the world in a different way. And the thing that you ask more than anything else is it cannot possibly work this way, and there has to be a better way. And so that's what I've done. Founded a business called Trax Technologies in '93, grew it till I sold it about 3.5 years ago for a nice exit. And sitting on a beach, realized what blockchain was doing would change many things in ways that we couldn't even imagine, and decided I needed to get off the beach and make one more go at it at Sweetbridge. So started up Sweetbridge. And Sweetbridge is doing something really very basic, but in a very new way, which is we're doing asset-based lending, and we're combining that with a loyalty system that actually allows you to reduce interest if you want to 0.
You know, Scott, your story is not really it is unique from a background perspective, but from the kind of revelation about blockchain perspective, it's not unique. In fact, I talked to a lot of people recently who've had similar revelations of their own that this was going to be some sort of revolutionary, transformative technology. I'm curious, what was it for you that really caused that epiphany? What was it looking at blockchain and what it can bring to the table? You said, "Aha, eureka! This is it. This is what I must do next."
So it was when I realized that it was giving the internet the opposable thumb. So if you think of the internet as being your four fingers, you can push stuff around with your four fingers pretty well, but you can't grab a hold and hold things very well. But the blockchain is like adding the opposable thumb to the internet. It means that you can now actually grab a hold of and hold things in the cloud. So you can actually hold assets, you can actually hold liabilities. And this solves an amazingly abstract problem in some ways, but it's super concrete in its implication, because in commercial transactions, identities of parties and goods, the legal agreements and the regulatory requirements that they must operate under, the accounting and the payment are today completely separate and are managed by different parties in different systems. And they're not integrated and they can't be trusted. So we have audits and we have enforcement organizations and governmental bodies that check these things to make sure that they're all in agreement. And almost all fraud and almost all friction in commerce from a financial perspective occurs because these things can be out of sync, and they frequently are. In fact, my old business used to make money by auditing the difference when these things were out of sync. And we found in supply chain transactions for the largest corporations on earth that on average that number worked out to benefit the supplier by 54 basis points. And so that's 0.5%. And that may not sound like a lot, but if you spend $50 billion a year in your supply chain, that's a stunning number. So if you can make all that stuff go away and do it without law enforcement, do it without auditors, and do it without people, doing it just with technology, you can change a lot of things that you don't realize you can change.
And so, Scott, we kind of touched on it earlier. You kind of gave a little bit of an overview of Sweetbridge, but I guess the question of really what is Sweetbridge, what you guys are doing, it's a little bit complicated because it's obviously the company, but it's also your main product or platform. It's also the application. It's open source. You have a bunch of members coming in and contributing to it as well. So it seems like Sweetbridge is kind of many things to many people. Is that an apt description?
It is. Although we think that the way people will interact with us and think of us as we launch our product this fall is they're going to think of us as a wallet. To the internet, internet gave us a way of sharing information globally and linking information in ways that we never dreamed of before and made it instantaneous. And we needed browsers to make that something that was accessible. In the blockchain, the thing that's going to make these things accessible is something called a wallet. And that's because blockchain is all about value, and value transfers value, holding value, borrowing stuff. And so we are releasing a wallet that you can load your assets in. It maintains your net worth for you real time against those assets, and you get one line of credit you can borrow from. And you can do it instantly at any time. You can set your own terms, and you can even buy down your interest to zero if you want with an asset that once you don't need, you can sell to somebody else.
So it's asset-based lending, effectively, is a good way to go about it. Now I know Scott, you were just we crossed paths in Chicago at the Voice of Blockchain event. In fact, we didn't actually get a chance to meet. We were kind of running around doing a bunch of different things. I do believe you were coming up on the stage after me, though, after the crypto derivatives panel. That was you there, correct?
Yes.
So we did. I guess we were two ships crossing in the night there. We met very briefly there. What was it that brought you to Chicago, to that event, all the way from the blockchain mecca of Arizona?
Well, Chicago is a very interesting city in the United States. Particularly in blockchain, because of its roots in commodities and because of its roots in kind of real things like farming and whatnot. I actually believe that Chicago could become the U.S. capital of the tokenization of assets, at least for commodities. It should be. And so we have a very big focus as an organization on Chicago just because of where we believe it'll be. Where Silicon Valley is really more about consumer things and things that are oriented towards consumers, and New York is more about financial markets. Chicago gets down and dirty, and they get practical, and so we think that's going to be a very important place for us because we are tokenizing the assets of the world and making it possible to extract value from them with low-cost loans. And we think we need Chicago to make that happen.
It is funny you mentioned that, because that's something we've certainly noticed as well. The whole blockchain / crypto movement really started obviously in the fringe kind of anarchist tech side of the space, and then slowly it's moved over as it's gotten more mainstream adoption. And there was this very large ecosystem here in Chicago ready to go that was very highly trained, that had been making markets or trading, skilled in risk management, primarily in derivatives, futures, and options. That's kind of what we do. It's in our DNA out here in Chicago. But a lot of that infrastructure had been kind of laying fallow for the better part of the last 4 or 5 years, because a lot of the big floors were shutting down, operations were migrating away from Chicago. And a lot of the expertise, myself included, that had migrated here for this reason, we're starting to look elsewhere for things to do and ways to apply that skill set. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, seemingly, crypto just landed like a bomb in this Chicago community. And almost overnight, it's been a few years, but it seems like overnight, really, we've seen Chicago really morphing into this hub, particularly for the trading, like you mentioned, the practical side of the crypto space. I know a lot of trading firms here and others that have shifted their focuses entirely away from standard listed options and futures and into crypto, into Delta One crypto, which is a huge change, but it's happening quite a bit. We see big prop firms here really aggressively making markets and taking charge. We see a lot of startups moving here. We see a lot of the big players in the space opening up satellite or even major offices here in Chicago. So Chicago, I think, has become, which is, I think, surprising a lot of people from outside this area, but has become this crypto trading hub, which is kind of fascinating. Is that kind of your takeaway as well, Scott?
It is, and we think it's well positioned to go to the next level. So what happened early in the crypto space, of course, was we were playing with entirely artificial systems. Bitcoin and whatnot is an entirely artificial system, and it has no real connection to the real world. But what you're starting to see happen in the crypto space is the tokenization of assets and the connecting of things with crops and with precious metals and with energy and with lots of other things. And the people that understand how to do this kind of stuff are the people that have been doing option trading and that built the option trading markets of the world, and they're in Chicago. So we think that that Chicago could actually become the Silicon Valley of blockchain in the United States.
I don't know, Scott. We might have to lure you away from Arizona to sunny Chicago. What do you say?
Well, so actually, the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago is our second most highly targeted city in terms of marketing efforts and legal efforts, regulatory efforts in the United States.
There you go. I think I need a new Sweetbridge satellite office here coming up a little bit as well.
Well, we already have people with boots on the ground.
Well, there you go. You've already anticipated my question, which is good. So Scott, I'm curious. Obviously, you came to town for that big event. I had a limited view of it. I was kind of there talking for our panel, and I kind of talked to some other people, and I had that kind of perspective. But what were your thoughts on the Voice of Blockchain event in general? I know you guys were big participants in it. What were your thoughts and some of your takeaways from it?
Well, I was pleased with the quality of the people that were on stage. It was a much higher quality and oddly enough, maybe a bit more seasoned audience on stage than you see at a lot of these crypto events. A lot of these crypto events are kind of just taking whatever the highest price person is willing to spend and putting that person on stage. And I think they avoided some of that, which I think was good. I think the event could have been better attended if it wasn't at the time of year, right at the end of summer, fabulous weather, which you don't get a lot of in Chicago. So, they had to fight the positive weather outside in terms of attracting the crowd. But the content and the people were quality. And I think in the end, that's what's going to make a big difference and win. It's what makes Chicago attractive. Find places like San Francisco can be a bit anarchist in its orientation at times in a lot of these things. And that's interesting, and it may stretch us and get us to think about things new. but it's probably not going to, to kind of move the needle in any kind of serious economic way that would be felt by, say, a nation or the world. And New York can be just a bit hyper-focused on just, financial transactions. And so they may not be as connected to how would you use the blockchain to do things with real assets in the real world.
Well, that was certainly my focus at the event. I don't say yes to a lot of moderating duties. We have enough going on here that to keep me occupied, as you might imagine. But I thought if I'm going to say yes and go all the way down there, I might as well bring some good people with me. So we had a great panel. We, of course, had Tony Saliba, Bill Louveris, part of the event. We had Julie from the CME. We had a good crew, Matt from Orats. So very well-seasoned pros in the space of derivatives and, of course, in crypto. So that was kind of fun. I'm not sure if you had a chance to catch our panel there, Scott, but I'm curious, even if you didn't, obviously you spend a lot of time in Chicago. You come from a financial space. This is a big outreach area for you. Derivatives are a big point of focus for this area and for this market. What are your thoughts on the burgeoning crypto derivative space and maybe what we could see in that area in the near future?
Well, I think it's going to be amazing. It's going to change that space a lot. And at first, it's going to be just incrementally, but I think ultimately it'll be structural because, with blockchains, you're going to be able to get visibility to assets all the way down to the individual level of granularity, individual pieces of that make up derivatives. And this is going to change a lot of things. Some of them in ways that may actually undermine derivatives markets and some in ways that may expand derivative markets. Like anything in this space that is dealing with financial stuff like banking and everything else, blockchain is going to, in some cases, be a disruptor and change things. And in other cases, it's going to be a massive enabler. You're looking at kind of what happened with cell phones and telephone companies. Voice over IP has changed it so that nobody makes money from voice calls anymore. They make money when people run over on their contract and don't renew it. And I think some of those same kinds of things are going to happen in derivatives markets and in future markets.
It is certainly an interesting time to be playing in this space. I want to go back to something really quickly you touched on there, Scott, earlier, which was, of course, you guys are obviously working on a new iteration, the next generation of the digital wallet out there. One of the things we hit on our panel, and I hear a lot from people who play in the institutional side of the space, is that crypto still isn't there yet, particularly on the derivative side or even just in the pure cash coin side, that it's not there yet from it's fragmented, liquidity is still hard to find and source. And one of the big issues, of course, still is with the wallets and the custody and all that fun stuff going on there. And is that a big focus for you guys at Sweetbridge with your new, transformed digital wallet, making something that is perhaps a little bit more palatable so institutions can come along and perhaps not have the pains, the barriers to entry that they have now in trying to play in the crypto space?
Absolutely. Both institutions and governments making it. So, the original anarchist kind of movement that led to the creation of Bitcoin network and its initial appreciation and adoption was so afraid of having any kind of centralization that they were okay with pushing all of the security concerns to the very edge of the network. And that isn't practical. So in our wallet, we're taking a different approach. You can actually allow the system to be centrally maintained for you like you would with an exchange and deal with all the custody problems and whatnot that a institution has as a result. Or if you want, you can keep it and manage it yourself. And we allow you to pick which one that you want to do. There's lots of things that we will be doing which are going to be firsts in the space when people start using our wallet, because we've started from a point of view that said, what is really needed to make this frictionless? And you mentioned liquidity, for example. We want to make it so that there is so much liquidity that that liquidity is never a problem. And the key to that is actually using real commercial transactions that are actually moving in the monetary system today and get those to move through crypto. So we are making it absolutely invisible to you if you send money through what is a crypto network versus, say, a banking network. You can't even tell the difference in our wallet. And we think that is going to bring a ton of liquidity to bear. We've shown this to people in the space, to financial institutions and others, and they all agree that this is what has to be the direction where it's going to go if it's going to see mass adoption, and that by seeing mass adoption, we'll see a massive increase in liquidity, and by enabling money to move back and forth for goods and services that are being conducted already in the economy, you start moving lots of funds, and then that makes liquidity go way up in the market.
Now, Scott, is the wallet live now, or is it still maybe in beta and you're kind of showing it to some early adopters there? What's the status of the wallet? When can we expect to actually get our hands on it?
So it's been in alpha. We are going into beta. We'll be releasing the beta either tomorrow or the next day. It's just in final audit right now. We're just waiting for
perfect timing on our part then.
Yep, absolutely. And then it'll be in general release, once we get feedback from the community, with lots of additional functionality being released over the next 6 months. And it'll be unique because it'll be the first wallet you can load real-world assets in, such as receivables of a company or commodities from a grain silo or whatever. So that'll be really unique.
Well, I think we're looking forward to that coming to fruition. And Scott, if our listeners want to learn more about your digital wallet, maybe they can dive into the beta for themselves. I don't know. Where should they go? What should they do?
You can go to sweetbridge.com and learn more there. You can sign up as a member. You have to go through KYC AML process to get our wallet. And then you can say you're interested in our, pick the link that says you want to be a beta tester, and we'll put you on the list. And as soon as we release here in the next day or two, we'll notify you, and you can download and play with the wallet to get familiar with it.
There you go. Check it out for yourselves, listeners. It's spelled just like it sounds, Sweetbridge, SWEET, Bridge, BRIDGE. Pretty easy there, sweetbridge.com. to learn more. And Scott, thanks for coming on. We're looking forward to seeing this new generation of wallet hitting the marketplace very soon.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Great, thank you. And thank you for joining us. We're back with a lot of live content, a lot of fun content hitting the network this week and going on. So keep an ear out for us, and we'll see you back here for more interviews really soon.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/The Options Insider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.